Because let's face it, the FDA, they do approve, let's say, MDMA and psilocybin, similar to what Australia did, what does that look like from a clinical model on day one? Hey everyone, welcome to this TDR Psychedelic Exclusive, and today we're talking psychedelics and more importantly, the clinical model. So if the FDA approves some of these compounds within the next year, how does the clinical model roll out? And what are some of the companies you should look at? And are there actually some infrastructure, meaning REITs, to invest in? Well, there is now. So that's why we want to bring in our guest here today. He is the CEO of Healing REIT, Ty Zakovich, who's based out of Denver. Good to see you. How are things?
Great. Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. What an industry. We've obviously seen the first tranche of companies kind of like, for the ones that are still around, they're legit companies from a public equity standpoint. But when we look at the rollout of how this industry is going to basically unfold over the next year, there's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of uptaking that needs to take place. But I'd be interested to hear, knowing what you're hearing, speaking to different clinics around the country, what the current model looks like and how it's going to basically pivot and adapt over the next 12 months.
Yeah. So as you know, and as you just alluded to, a lot of the ketamine therapy companies that weren't doing it the right way, that were just sticking lines and arms and, kind of ketamine mills, if you will, they're having problems right now, right? Because they have had no client retention. The people that were going in were not getting actual results because they didn't have any talk therapy components. So what we've been doing is talking to all the top providers in the space that have been doing it correctly. And shockingly enough, those are the companies that are forward thinking and want to be ready for these next medicines once they come available. Obviously, MDMA is the first on that tranche, but then hopefully psilocybin and LSD to follow with all these CRO trials that are going on right now.
So you would factor a lot of clinics that are not doing it right attached to the fact that they're not providing assisted therapy as well. Yeah. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, definitely. And ketamine is such a introspective medicine. A lot of these clinics were having it like being a very social environment, and a lot of people when the reaction that they have to ketamine is like I said, introspective and K-hole, and don't really want to talk to anybody, don't want bright lights, want it to be a mellow, calm, dark environment. And the companies that are doing it correctly have those segregated, have talk therapy before, have talk therapy after, just a lot of integration with the medicine, because it opens you up. But if you're not knowing how to deal with what you're getting opened up to or what the trauma that you're dealing with in the past,
yeah, of course,
it almost ends up being the negative effect.
So for the clinical model to work, then you would need enough trained therapists. That I've heard conversations that we're going to need as many as 60,000 in the next 2 years over the course of, whether it's in North America, Europe, you name it. So based on conversations that you've had and how this plans to roll out, because let's face it, the FDA, they do approve, let's say, MDMA and psilocybin, similar to what Australia did, what does that look like from a clinical model on day one?
Yeah, so for a clinical model, you have to have the room ready, right? A lot of these clinics that are doing ketamine therapy the right way now, they're also CROs, so they're very involved in the clinical phases of these medicines. So they have maybe 1 or 2 rooms set up for that type of treatment, but we're obviously going to need a lot more. There's anticipation that they're going to need 16,000 clinics within the next 10 years in order to facilitate MDMA effectively.
That's in the U.S. alone?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's just with the VA and the amount of backlog that they have for veterans that have PTSD and need help. So there's an unlimited amount of demand for this. But to your point, there's definitely not enough therapists, and there's definitely not enough real estate infrastructure currently to even make a dent in that.
Yeah, and especially with the times that we're in and the demand that's going to take place. So are we going about this the right way as far as like walking before we run? Because let's say a government official like the FDA does approve. I'm trying to get an idea as to what the clinical model looks like even from a year from now. Are we going to be able to, obviously the answer is no, but how fast are we going to have to adapt, and what takes place involved in the rollout of this whole clinical model, knowing the amount of demand that's going to take place once that does become legal?
Yeah, that's why we're starting now, right? So we want to have these clinics built, ready to go. We're obviously not going to be able to provide 16,000 of them within the next year, but do our best to put them in major metropolitan cities around VA hospitals. Proximity is very important to us because that's going to be the main lead source to begin with. And the VA themselves are not going to be able to facilitate this medicine within their clinics because they're already at 115% capacity. They're out of room. They don't have the time to build out these specific rooms. We're talking to the top companies in the space on the psychedelic side and also not on the psychedelic side. Behavioral health clinics, sports medicine clinics, all these clinics that are helped.
So you're looking at the private side, not just public equity side as well, correct?
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Healing REIT describes itself as a new venture that invests in real estate projects, as you've outlined, so specifically aimed, as we said, the psychedelic therapy. So what specific REIT do you think is needed right now for the industry?
Well, specific what? Sorry, you broke up a little bit.
I said, what specific REIT do you think is needed right now for this industry?
Yeah, I mean, a REIT like us that can go out and purchase the real estate, sign long-term leases with these companies. In doing that, also, it allows the companies to grow, right? Because they're not using their operational cash to purchase real estate. The commercial debt markets right now are very tight, so it's very hard to get financing, even if you are a well-operated and financed clinic. So we're providing turnkey spaces, doing all the TI build-outs for them, and then just building all those costs into their lease so that they can just pay a monthly fee to us and have the right space that they need to grow into.
So you plan to acquire triple net lease properties across the country. This is basically to help establish and operating physicians. So first off, to our audience, maybe define a little bit on what's involved in a triple net leased property.
Yeah, so triple net lease is where the landlord owns the building, and then the tenant is responsible for all expenses on top of their lease rate. Okay. So they're responsible for utilities, taxes, pretty much everything, maintenance on the property. So we're going to provide them with new buildings that are ready to go when they sign the lease, but the tenant is ultimately responsible for the ongoing cost of the building.
Is it common for businesses to sign lease agreements like this?
Yeah, very, very common in commercial real estate. Yeah, triple net leases are pretty much the standard out there.
And more specifically for this industry that you're finding?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of gross leases out there as well, but a lot of time when a company or a REIT is spending so much money on the TI, they want to be able to recoup some of those costs long term on the real estate side. So triple net lease makes the most sense in facilitating that.
Ty, how do you see things playing out, like if and when, you have the clinics available, assisted therapy available? I know last week we spoke to Cody Chandral that was on, talked about a number of insurance codes that have been passed and how they haven't really received all that much coverage. And there was news actually last week too about how some Australians are paying $25,000 out of pocket. Mm-hmm. And obviously you're going to need insurance coverage when it comes to this. But from that perspective, based on conversations that you're having, do you think insurance will provide coverage for this?
I do, because I think if you look at it long term, insurance companies are spending a lot more money if somebody is getting traditional therapy now and is on opioids for their entire life.
100%.
I think that the mental health crisis our country's facing is the biggest issue in our country, and I think solving that would solve a lot of other issues. I think insurance companies, once they find out how effective this medicine actually is, and just speaking to the MDMA phase 3 trial, had a 67% efficacy rate in curing PTSD with 3 treatments over 12 weeks. And they've done follow-up 1 year, 2 year follow-ups, and that's still holding true. So very, very promising, and that efficacy rate is better than anything out there by a mile at the moment.
Well, when a lot of people look at this model that you're putting together, this venture, a lot of it obviously is dependent on approval from the FDA approving a lot of this stuff. Conversations I've had is that the readout from MAPS is going to be incredible. Health Canada potentially doing the same thing as what Australia's done. If we get approval from the FDA come Q1, Q2 of next year, we've really created a turning point for this industry, and I think it will get its rightful attention in due time, don't you think? Yeah, definitely.
And ketamine was the first one that kind of opened the door. That's just the tip of the spear. Obviously, I think that MDMA is even more effective than that, and then hopefully psilocybin to follow. As you know, some of the states have already approved that. Colorado being one of them, Oregon being next, and it's gaining ground quickly. And I think the ultimate reason why is because they see that it's actually helping people get better permanently.
Absolutely. It's moving fast, isn't it?
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, this is an equity REIT which invests and owns properties, as you said, in general rental income. So I have to ask, like, is it at all challenging putting deals together, given that most companies in the industry right now are devoid of revenue and are deeply cash flow negative right now?
Yeah, so we've talked to the majority of the companies in the space, and we're choosing to work with the most well qualified and best credit quality tenants out there that have the right vision, are doing the things the right way, that are actually profitable. So we're mitigating our tenant risk on the front end significantly with that. And even if MDMA doesn't get approved in a year, if it takes 2 years, these clinics are still highly profitable on their own. That's just going to be another additive to their bottom line once that becomes available.
Numinous often gets put into that conversation as probably being the industry leader. I don't know what you can and can't share, but do you follow the company closely and are conversations that you've had with them based on their model?
Yeah, we've had conversations in the past. I think they're a great company, and could potentially have something with them here shortly. We'll see.
So the REIT itself is private with the ambition to go public down the road, if I'm understanding correctly. So right now, like, are you raising money in a private round? And if so, how much are you seeking to raise?
Yeah, so we're raising money in a private round. We just recently filled out our seed. We're going to Series A. We have 2 equity partners that we're courting right now that would be basically taking out the rest of those rounds.
Yeah.
But yeah, if anybody's interested in investing, happy to talk to them, see where they fit into the space. But yeah, we've done a lot of work on this in the last year and a half, and have a great board and great established relationships on pretty much all fronts at the moment.
Yeah, I see that. So looking down the road, if we wrap this up, particularly once psilocybin and MDMA assisted therapies are approved by regulators, what would you say is your projected market size for the industry? And you're saying as many as 16,000 clinics you think will eventually be supported in North America alone?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. Currently, I believe it's around $51 billion is being spent on this space a year on the mental health space. They're projecting that to go to 200 million by 2027. Real estate infrastructure, if you just look at, say, 10% of that 16,000 clinics and assume, $1 million per building, it's $1.6 billion. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunity for market cap growth. And I think the trajectory is pretty much unlimited. It just takes execution and with the right operating partners.
Yeah, we're definitely entering new times, that's for sure. But I think the most important thing from what we're learning today is that there are a lot of clinics right now that are cash negative, but a lot of it you contribute towards they don't have the proper therapy that's in place. Yeah,
not the proper therapy, and a lot of them aren't correctly billing the insurance companies because they don't have that therapy component. So therapy is easily reimbursable, and a lot of the cash pay ketamine clinics now that aren't facilitating that, I think that's a main reason why they are cash negative, because they have no reimbursement. It's just all cash pay.
All cash.
Yeah.
Well, a domino effect that needs to take place. Licensed therapists that can obviously make the actual therapy work for patients, and insurance coverage is going to be top priority. But interesting stuff that we learned from obviously you and Cody in the last week and some of the conversations that you have. But appreciate obviously you checking into the podcast here today. Best of luck. And if there's any information that people want to obtain, where can they find it?
Yeah, our website is healing.realestate. You can find us on LinkedIn and all the socials as well.
All right. Appreciate the time, Ty.
Yep. Thanks, Chad.
Take care. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. And if you want to learn more about the emerging industries that we cover, then leave a comment below and let us know who you want us to interview, the questions you want asked, and the information that you want to learn. We want to hear from you. As usual, click on that bell for all notifications to get the latest information. Share this video with your network, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.